Good morning. This is Liz from Augusta Nation in Bellingham, Washington. I'm the operations manager and the facilitator of communication here at Augusta. And I have something really special for you today. I have Ben Linder here with us. He is one of our team members here at Augusta Lawn Care Services in Bellingham. And I want to preface this morning by saying that at our company here, we're all so different from each other. And we all bring something special, all the parts that make the awesome whole and the parts in themselves are so unique and fantastic, and that's what makes Augusta a good team. Not because any of us individually are special, but together we've built something special. And so I want to ask Ben a few questions today, and he's not the most comfortable talking in front of people, but I feel like there's a lot of the landscapers that listen that are just like you. Mm-hmm. And that you can bring something special to them that would help them more than maybe somebody else.
Absolutely.
And I'll say also that Mike is giving you strategies and systems and helping you build your business. But what we're doing today is not something we get paid for. It's just something special that us employees want to offer to just add to what Mike's doing. To let you know that we do have something special to offer you if you wanted to become a franchisee or just as a landscaper to feel supported, that if we're going to raise the level of the professionalism in the industry, we need to be there for each other and be professionals. And so I'll just ask Ben a few questions and we'll get going here. So first of all, how long have you been with Augusta?
I've been with Augusta for about 6 months, going on 7 months now. Yeah.
And let's go back way before that. When did you first come to Washington?
I first came to Washington in 2015 to attend a wilderness trade school for 2 years, and then I moved back down to California and then realized how much I loved Washington and strived to come back up here, and that's when I came back up to Bellingham. And then eventually I found Augusta Landscape.
So were you born in California?
Yes, I was born in Southern California.
And it's quite different in the landscape there, right?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Did you live in the very hot part?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So once you came here and experienced this lovely rain that we have all the time,
oh yeah,
something totally different.
Oh yeah.
And the wilderness school that you were interested in, did you find that online, or was it something you always wanted to do and this was the only place that offered it?
Yeah, after I was leaving high school and didn't really know exactly what I wanted to be doing, but I know that I wanted to be somewhere in wilderness and learn more about wilderness ecology, and that was the first place that I really looked at online and got accepted, and 2 years after that started being who I wanted to be.
Fantastic. Yeah. So do you get a certificate from there of something?
Oh yes. I obtained a permaculture design certification as well as their own certification that covers all basic survival skills, and as well as a tracking certification.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's wonderful. So let's go back a little further. A little bit about your family. Are you the only sibling, or do you have brothers and sisters?
I have 5 other siblings.
Whoa! Yeah. Boys, girls?
2 brothers and 3 sisters. Yeah.
And your mom and dad, are they in this area as well?
No. Both of them are in Southern California.
Still, yeah. Okay. So have they been up here?
Yes.
Okay, to visit, yeah, yeah. So what was the dynamic like growing up that would bring you to the kind of person you are and want to be in the field you are? Was it crazy diverse, or is everyone pretty similar to you?
Oh, I'm definitely the black sheep of the family.
That's great. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone else in my family, yeah, I don't know.
They're just not like you?
Yeah.
Are they going to college and being in the big, busy California scene?
Well, I am the second youngest of my siblings.
Okay.
So everyone else is at least like 4 years, 5 years older than me.
Okay.
So, some are in like the auction service industry and like all sorts of
very
different
diverse.
Things. Yeah.
So do you meet up with them still as adults, or is everyone kind of gone their way?
most of them also live in the Southern California area. One of my sisters lives in Northern California, and I'm the only one that's really out of state right now. So yeah.
So you are the adventurous one.
Yes.
Are you the outdoorsy person?
Myself and my closest sister is.
She is as well.
She is as well.
The one in Northern California? Yeah, so the two of you ventured out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so tell us about when you first saw the probably a Craigslist ad about Augusta.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when you saw that ad, were you just applying for a whole bunch of landscaping jobs, or what were you doing, and what did you think you needed to make a change that you reached out?
Well, that's quite a story. So when I moved up to Bellingham, I was attending another wilderness trade school, as well as helping out a little bit because I knew the instructor that was starting that course. And so I came to Bellingham, didn't really have a job, and eventually got onto a much smaller landscape business. And I worked there for 2 years, and the management wasn't really there. It wasn't very supportive, and I kind of was left out to dry multiple times with that smaller business. And when COVID-19 happened, that's when he laid everyone else off. And so I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and so I was scrambling around for different jobs. Eventually got onto a security job that I only did for about 5 days.
Wasn't your thing?
Wasn't really my thing. It was kind of a shady business in my own opinion. And one day I was passing the Augusta headquarters, and I was like, if this doesn't pan out the way that I want to, this is where I'm going to apply. They seem like I've seen them around over the past 2 years, and everyone seems to be like really on top of everything that I've been seeing from the outside. So as soon as I decided that that security job wasn't for me, I immediately applied to here via Craigslist ad. Yeah.
Okay. And at the other job, how do you mean that the management wasn't there for you? Did you do mowing routes or cleanups, or what kind of work did you guys do?
We did all sorts of different things, from mowing to property cleanups to hardscaping, building retaining walls, all sorts of different things. And when I say left out to dry, it was more so that the owner wanted to be more and more of an absentee owner, but he didn't have the infrastructure or the people to really achieve that. And so when I needed his help, he wasn't always available, and it would stall the progress of the work.
So did he do bids for landscaping jobs?
Yes.
And then tell you guys, we got this bid?
Yep.
And did he buy the materials and things, and then you guys just went out and tried to figure it out?
He would give us work orders as far as getting those materials and whatnot, and some of the time he would be there on site, and other times he would be out on the mountains skiing with his family and whatnot.
Nice. That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's lovely. So what would happen if you guys had issues or got stranded or anything like that?
If it was smaller things, we would just make executive decisions and hope for the best, which isn't really the best way to go about things. And other times, if it was a major thing, then it would stall the operation as a whole. So,
what was the quality of the other guys you worked with?
For the most part, the quality of my coworkers was really good, and I feel like he got really, really lucky with who he obtained for his work. So he could have guys that never showed up. You know, if he was out skiing and I mean, you guys didn't do the work. There were some that would do that, and eventually I became the project manager for his company, which, I mean, it wasn't like a ton of people. It was only myself and at most 3 other people. But by default that happened. Yeah, but by default that happened. Yeah, because somebody had to lead. Yeah. I see. Yeah, so why did you want to be in the landscape industry? Just to be outside, do any kind of work outside? Yeah, well, when I first got to Bellingham, the first job that I ever got here was at one of the seafood processing plants. And that was an indoor job where I would go in before the sun rose and would leave when the sun was already set. And I knew that this wasn't really where I wanted to be. And one of my friends that I made up here was doing that landscaping business and knew that he needed more guys, and so he kind of got me into that that business. And from the first day, I really, really liked being outside and working with my hands and doing the deed.
Yeah, that's awesome. What I usually do when I get their Craigslist ad, response to that, and I look at their application, I usually look them up on Facebook. And one thing I found about some of the very best workers is they don't have a lot of social media presence. And most of the guys here that I found, every picture, if any, that was online on Facebook, Instagram, or anything was always of them being outside. And very rarely of anybody partying or anything, but I found that the most steady, hardworking people, it doesn't mean they're not educated or knowledgeable or intellectual at all. They just don't need the recognition and the validation that's online. Yeah, so to have those kind of people here is incredible. And I'll jump way forward to now and add that to be on camera all the time is something those people aren't typically comfortable with because they're not comfortable with drawing attention to themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's go back to the day we interviewed. And was there anything different about the day we interviewed and what I told you about the company or anything?
As far as just operations?
Yeah, I remember telling you about us and what we were all about. And then we got into, at the very end, right before you left, that you were a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what kind of instruments do you play?
I was trained on saxophone, but I mainly play piano and guitar now.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So just for recreation, or have you had the opportunity to play in some bands or for some
yeah, I played in high school, and that's where I got like my musical training, but one of my roommates, he went to the same high school, and we've been friends and musicians and playing together for like the past 6-7 years now. So and he had his own bands and whatnot, so I would like go in and do my own things with those bands and whatnot. So yeah,
that's wonderful. So you're multi-talented.
Yes.
Yes. And you'll find in our industry, most people don't, really high quality people don't talk about themselves and all those things. You got to pull it out of them. Yeah. So we hired you on, and what did you start doing at first?
I started on mow routes and quickly went on to working with Aaron with more hardscaping level job bids and things like that. Yeah.
And so you've been here 6 months now, and you've done a whole genre of things now.
Oh yes.
And we've been through a lot of things, thick and thin. We've had some very difficult projects that were extremely dependent on each other.
Yes.
And so how do you feel about the support here? Like when we do jobs, how does a typical project begin? Like what kind of information do you get? And the follow through to the end of a project?
I mean, comparing this to my last job in landscaping, it's night and day. I get all of the information before the job even starts, usually a day or two before I even set my boots down on the project. I get a very detailed video of every single step that I'm supposed to do on the project, as well as a written work notes about exactly what I need to do, which before it was just go here and do some of this, and that's it. No video, no notes, just go and work. And that is a huge difference that I really, really like. And then once you're already on the project, usually if it's a larger project, you get at least one more person. And everyone here that I've worked with has an astounding work ethic. And I don't need to worry about anyone like slacking off or doing anything that I wouldn't be doing. And, you know, that's just some peace of mind that I can go and work on one end of the project while someone else works on another end of the project, knowing that we're both equally committed to doing a good job.
Do you think it's pretty transparent here about what you see about the job? Like, is there ever an instance where it's like, oh, no, we're just going to give you part of the information and you're supposed to figure it out? Or do you feel supported, like, all the way around? You know how much it costs. You know how long it should kind of take.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel that that you're just given all the information that you need.
Yes, we're given all of the information that we ever need as far as what the client gives to Augusta.
Right, right.
Now there's always work order changes and things like that, but even when that happens, when I message Liz or if I message Lee, they get back to me within 2 minutes or less. Like I've never waited on a work order change, or if something happened while I was on the job that I needed to let them know, or even like if I'm lost on a mow route, they're always there for me and they're always there for the rest of the employees that work here.
Do you have an app on your phone that shows all your jobs and the information?
Yes, Service Auto Tracker.
And are you able to see the price and the budgeted hours on there?
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So what do you think of the paid for performance model?
I love it. It was I didn't have all the kinks worked out, but I had that idea in my head when I was a manager at the previous landscape company that I've been seeing the people that I've been working with slack off because they know that if they do their job quicker, they get less money.
Exactly.
In the same amount of time. So that sort of system really implements the need to do the best job that you can do. Yeah.
And have you found on your paychecks over time as you become more efficient that the pay is better?
Yes.
And it rewards high performers?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as time has gone on, do you feel like you've been given more responsibility, maybe at times that made you feel a little bit uncomfortable?
I mean, I never shy away when it comes to someone asking me to do something. I just, if they trust me to do that, I just try and do it to the best of my abilities. And so I've never really worried about whenever I've personally been subjected to going to the next step as far as like property management and things like that.
So as time has gone on, though, when we realize that you have certain gifts or strengths about you, we kind of put you in different places that we know you'll be effective. Maybe more difficult customers. If it's a job where we need a really super good communicator, one thing that's wonderful about you is you're always, if you don't feel positive, you are positive.
Yes.
So like, hey, we run into a little bit of trouble, or you can tell me. And over time, I learn in their voices when they're trying to be very positive about what's happening, but things are going pretty bad, and I can sense in their voice where they are. And so that's good because then I'm like, okay, they're having a little bit of trouble, they need some support, but at least we are self-aware and aware of each other enough that we're there for one another. Yeah. So how about the aspect of understanding business? Has this opened up some doors for you in the way you think about business and how a business is run?
Oh, absolutely. I've always known that I wanted to be running a small business later in life, but I never really had any opportunity to get a solid education for that. And the Wednesday morning meetings that Mike puts on has really opened my eyes as far as the business aspect of running a company.
So you can pretty much ask whatever you want, and he's pretty transparent about what we do in business in general.
Oh, absolutely. I've never worked at a company that has a boss so committed to its employees as well as just being present at the location on a weekly basis. Like that's never happened at any job that I've ever had before. And I really respect that because we all know that he doesn't really need to do that, but he's so committed to doing a good job that it permeates throughout the entire system.
That's so true. So do you feel like if you build good systems that the owner could be absent and the systems and the great people would run it because they've like caught the vision of what he's trying to do?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and have you found in the day-to-day, like what we do together, we know it affects so many more people because Mike is trying to do so much more that we realize it's not about us.
Yep.
You really feel that in all that we do. And how has your mentality been about getting comfortable around the camera?
I mean,
was that odd to you when, Josh would show up or I'm always running around with the camera?
I mean, when it's work when I'm on the site, and like for example, Josh shows up and asks me what I'm doing. Like I like to roll with the punches, so it's just like, all right, this is what I'm doing right now. So I have gotten more and more comfortable being in the spotlight and being on camera, as well as public speaking. On that note, one of the things that we do here at Augusta is yellow slips, where if there's something that isn't up to par on the client's perspective, that they we either got a bad review or something along those lines, we take initiative and take responsibility for those mistakes, and we openly talk and share about that at the morning meetings. And that has really helped me personally as far as public speaking and getting over my fears of publicly speaking.
Yeah, I remember when Nick came and yourself, like why do I have to talk? And now I have to talk about my mistakes in front of everyone. And you realize that it's such a positive thing, because if you don't talk about your mistake, the next person's going to fail on that job because you didn't share. And the less you share, if you just like, oh, not really my fault, or they were just stupid or whatever, that doesn't help anyone. The only way it helps is, even if we did an awesome job, sometimes we have to do the yellow slip because maybe we didn't understand the customer right or read the notes right. And by one person owning it, it sets every single person on the team up for success. Oh, that's what Ben was talking about last week. And, when we all first had to talk here, we were like, your voice shakes and your face is red. And that's what I just want to encourage all you landscapers, that you think you're just a dumb laborer, but you realize how few people take satisfaction in a job well done today, or even will work hard. And it will become a dying breed, and the professionalism in the landscape industry will make you be able to raise your prices. And the way you conduct yourself on the site will be like, wow, I've never seen anyone like that. And that's what happens now, because all the guys, like, we have a kind of an attitude, you're always on stage, perform well. If you're by yourself or you're with a customer and you're performing, it will affect somewhere. They're going to write a review. They're going to call the office before the guys are even back and say, like, they're amazing. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it's because every single person thinks like an owner. And we know without each other, not one single job would get done. Like, it's so dependent on so many people, from the very first phone call till the invoice, And Ben might be at a job and hear them like totally slamming the office or their communication, or like ripping us to shreds. But because he knows us, and he knows that like we come to work for each other and we are here to serve and give and not about us, they listen to all of that through a filter, because he knows Liz would never do that. Liz would never do that. Oh, she must not have had the information. I need to let her know right away. They're saying this so she can contact them. And the same with them. Not one time ever. I don't care if the guys are having a rough day or a rough time at home, and I know they were probably really tired and may have said something. Not once ever would I throw them under the bus, because their success depends on me and my success depends on them. And the worst thing in the world is you could demoralize each other to know that Ben let me down on the job because he validated the customer's negativity about me, right? So no matter what, we're always like, well, if I get complaints about him, I don't care if he made a mistake or whatever. We're going to deal with it later together and resolve it for the customer. But right away, and I'm like, I know that Ben is a high-performing employee, and he must have just misunderstood something about what you wanted. So Ben and I will talk together, and we'll figure it out. And once he's on the job, we have full confidence in him to make the call, and we'll back him up, even if he messes up. Even if he messes up, because that's how we all learn and figure it out, right? What are some of the skills that make you good at the jobs, like the skills that you brought to us? Like, you had your wilderness training.
I mean, the wilderness school that I went to definitely shaped who I am in a lot of different aspects, as far as my work ethic and what I'm comfortable doing in all sorts of different conditions. But I think one of my biggest contributions would be my sense of humility. I don't feel that you need to be a very headstrong, proud person in order to do a good job and run a good business, and having that humility really,
I sense the presence of a bee. If I get stung, folks, woo! I hear him too.
Yeah, he's on you.
You can hit me with a hammer and kill him.
There he goes.
Okay, there we go.
Where was I?
Sense of humility.
Sense of humility. Yeah, I feel that being too prideful can really set yourself up for failure, and just knowing that, everyone's on the same page and whatnot. Like, we don't really have designated leaders on any given job, and everyone has the equal opportunity to speak and give their 2 cents in. I think that really helps in the dynamics of working here and doing projects and just the team as a whole.
You know a lot of plants.
I try to.
Yes. We did training not too long ago, and we realized Ben has a lot of skill here. So we actually used you as one of the leaders in the training, and were you able to help the guys identify the bushes, ways to trim them that are best healthy for the bushes? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Whenever I do property cleanup jobs, and I am working with another person, I always go over whatever knowledge that I know in regards to specific plants, whether it be just using hand pruners instead of hedge trimmers for certain plants, specifically rhododendrons. You're not supposed to cut them with powered equipment because it usually makes them more bare and all chopped up. And just simple things like that, just so that we do the extra step in order to make everything look perfect.
I want to talk about a couple specific incidents that have happened here. You make concoctions, right? Do you make tell us about
salves
that.
and tinctures and things like that. So my knowledge in plants has mainly gone towards medicinal plants and natural medicinal plants that are native to Washington. And I make salves and tinctures and other health remedies, both for my person as well as whoever else wants or needs it. I always have a medical kit with me whenever I'm on a job, so that if anyone else gets injured or myself, I have the appropriate things in order to do a good job and help someone that is in a dire situation, potentially.
So I'll go back to one theme that we kind of have here, and that is that we all come to work for each other. And there's been multiple times, I've worked here for 5 years, and I've never called in sick once. And it's not because I wasn't sick, it's because I knew that I needed to be here for other people, and that the day would be smoother for everybody if I showed up. And so one day, Ben was at a project, and you hurt your back. And you let me know right away, like, hey, I hurt my back, and you can tell me about it in a second. It's pretty bad, but I'm going to try to keep going. And I'm like, okay, just tell me if you're not good, and then I'll have somebody come and help whoever you're with, and then you just come back. So tell me about that day. And then later on in the day, it was toward the end, and the job was going late. I don't know if we had to finish that day. But Lee finally came, I think, to help too, because he knew you were in pain, but you wouldn't stop. So tell us about that day you got hurt.
So the project was doing a reinstall for a lawn, and so we had a skid steer on site, and how I hurt my back wasn't the most proud moment. It was right at the beginning of the day, and I was lifting equipment out of the trailer, and I lifted a wheelbarrow and overextended my back, putting it down from the trailer onto the ground. And right from there, I knew that my back was compromised and I couldn't really do any manual labor. However, we had the skid steer there, and that doesn't require anything more than just sitting down and operating hand controls. And so I figured if I can just stabilize myself, then I can complete the rest of the day as long as people are okay with that. And that also goes into, like, one, if I wake up that morning to work, I'm going to do everything that I can to work. I don't like doing any sort of shortcuts or anything like that in order to get it done. And also, I don't like the thought of abandoning whoever I'm with on the job site. And so that's why I stayed on for the rest of the day and let everyone know what was going on, because the worst thing, at least for me, is to get abandoned on a job site that like is supposed to get done that day, and then all of a sudden I'm left by myself.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do that to
somebody else.
To somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason I brought up this story is because when you're a part of a team like this, even when you're not here, you're trying to take care of yourself and be healthy and be a high quality person, so that when you come here, it's all given to the team. And what I'll say about Ben when he left that day, I said to him, hey, do you need some ibuprofen? And I think you said, no, I've got some stuff that I use. And then he said, all ice and rest. And so did I give you off the next day?
Yes.
To get better?
Yes.
Yeah. So he was hurting pretty bad, and he was off the next day. But I want to speak to the fact that he went home and he made sure you had this special thing. You said, I've hurt my back before, and I did like 4 hours. Was it in heat and then ice, and then you alternated somehow?
Yeah. So ice bath mixed with hot bath, and then my favorite natural medicine is comfrey salve, and that really helps with not only pain management, but also getting everything healed very quickly. And then that mixed with yarrow tincture, that really speeds up the healing process so that you can do that. And then on Monday, over the weekend, I purchased a back brace, just a very simple neoprene back brace, just for a little bit of support. And I was rocking that for the next few days just to isolate my back so that I could continue working.
And it's the weekend, and I'm thinking about him, and I'm thinking about him being in pain. And we have this unusual place here in our area. It's not like when you go to a spa or something and you pay $100 and something for an hour massage. They do really good body work to help you get back on track. And so, and you're very careful with your employees, because you don't know what people are comfortable with. Some people don't want to do medical things, and some people don't want to do natural things, and some people are freaked out about doctors. And a lot of people would go home and just take their ibuprofen and lay on the couch and not try to get better, right? So I just texted him. I'm like, I don't know if it would help, or if you go to the chiropractor or anything, but this massage place, it's the kind of place that's open till 10 p.m. and you can just call them and pop in, and they do really good body work. And so he's like, yeah, maybe I'll try it out, right?
Yep.
And so you went there and you were like, I don't even think it did anything.
Well, that's what I thought on the first day. It was right down the street of where I lived, and my roommate dropped me off there, and I went in, and they worked their magic on me and whatnot, and I left there, like, it felt all right, but like as far as the pain coming from my lower back, it wasn't really better per se. But over the course of the next day, everything relaxed in that entire area, and I was able to continue healing with that new relaxed state.
Yeah, and the point to all of that is, when we're not here, look how much he did, and you would think I would not do that. I would just lay around. Liz, I can't make it again today. I can hardly do anything, and I'm not coming in. He could have done that, and I would have been like, totally. I know he's a hard worker. He's in a lot of pain. He can't come, but he did all that effort on the weekend to try to get better, to be back at work. So it's not because people are making millions of dollars. You know that it's something more than the money.
Yeah.
It's some like quality of individual that we're building something, and we can't do it without each other, and we can't do it without knowing you're going to show up. So it's a dependability thing, so that if you ever were bad and you're just like, I can't come, I wouldn't question it at all, because you've already built such a thing that if he could be here, he would be here. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit now about customers and the genre of customers that you've experienced. And some people are really straightforward. They know what they want. And the whole process goes smooth.
Yep.
And then there's others that they're with you the whole time. And because of their business or their life, and there's certain makeup of a person, they can bring real joy to a job or make it really horrible.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about the one gentleman who was a banker, and like we kind of dissect it when they get back, like why are they being like that? And tell us a little bit about him and that job.
Yeah, well, the job was to rip out his entire backyard and put in almost like a Zen garden type of more artsy installation. And what was kind of a problem was he didn't know exactly what he wanted. All he knew is that he wanted certain things in one place and certain things in the other, and one of the things that he would always say is, I trust you because you are the experts, you are the professionals, and things like that. The problem with that is if the client never actually concretely tells you what he wants or she wants, it creates an open-ended situation on our part that if we get it wrong to their eyes, then we need to go and redo it again and again and again.
And he was the type of person, he said he had to see it before he could decide if he liked it.
Yeah.
So he couldn't envision what you were trying to say. This is my professional opinion, and this is how I think we should do it. But he couldn't say, yeah, that's cool, until you did it. And then he didn't like it every time you would try to. That's not what I want to see.
Yeah. So eventually we got a mutual understanding, and how I solved that problem is I would do a step of the process that can easily be undone just to get the lines on the ground per se, as far as what my envisionment was, so that I can then communicate with him to see whether that is what he wants. And I went and got him specifically, he wanted a dry riverbed going from one end of his property to the other end of his property, and I got him out every single step of the way to make sure that he wanted every curve and every rock in the right place.
Oh my word. Yes, and I'm talking, people, about somebody who gets angry to the point of screaming and yelling at them. And one of the guys didn't want to come to work the next day because he was having a rough time. And I'm like, hey, is it because you had a rough childhood and your dad screamed at you and this guy was screaming at you yesterday? And he's like, no, just having a rough time. But it was such a rough job. He said, I knew I had to get back there and not leave Ben in the lurch. So on every night when they would come back, we would talk. So you realize if somebody is a banker, let's say they've never worked with their hands, and so it's just their visual of what they see. And so suddenly he's thinking he's the project manager, and because you're getting his opinion every step of the way, what he wants, he thinks he's got to manage the job because you don't know what you're doing. So you always run those fine lines, and at some points you just realize we have to get done with this job and we're never coming back. And when Lee would call him and try to reason with him, he was screaming at Lee on the phone. And Lee is just, it's really you guys' demeanor and everything that really won it, because Lee is like, sir, let me know what you want. We'll do anything to make it happen. And he was wanting some extra things. They kept adding and adding and adding, but we couldn't budget that time in because we had other projects we had to start, and there was no way that I was going to have them go back there. So I said, we can give him a bid for stuff he wants and tell him we got to finish this job and wrap it up. And I said, even if he accepts, there is no way I'm going to have the guys go back. Like, we come here to make people's lives better. They buy time so that they can go do other things in their lives. But if it is really, it doesn't debilitate us, because together we can get it wrapped up and resolved. But if we didn't talk about it at night when they came back, okay, tomorrow we're going to handle it like this. So the last day, we asked you, do you want some more people? And didn't we send 5 guys?
Yes.
There were 5 guys. And so this is what I told them. Ben is the voice to the customer, not all 5 of you. So if the gentleman has anything to say, you just keep your mouth shut, be humble, and run it through Ben. And Ben is the person who talks to him. And so they were trying really hard to do this. And then at one point, tell me about when Austin finally had to just stand up and put the customer in his place.
Yeah, so it was getting more towards the end of the day, and we had everything pretty much solidified except for the termination point of that riverbed, that dry riverbed. And so he was the client was using very ethereal terms as far as what he wanted to see. And as he was leaving, Austin kind of butted in and said, "Hey, like, we're gonna do what you said to the best of our abilities, but this is the last day that we're going to be here, and so you can either stay out here and like watch to make sure. But at the end of the day, once we make those changes, they're going to be solidified. We're not going to be able to make any further changes on that."
And that took a lot of guts for him to like
absolutely
slowly stand up and turn around and say, "This is the way it's going to be." And what did the customer do?
He very graciously accepted that reality.
But this was many days in, and the day that we just told him we weren't coming back.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then once we completed everything and everything was set in stone, we got him out, and he was almost a completely different person. He was very thrilled with the end result of what went onto his property, and very thankful with every team member that was on site with it.
So you realize it's not about you. It's not personal.
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
either scared or frustrated because they don't know what to do, and they don't even know how to handle a situation.
And I mean, putting yourself in the client's shoes is a really good tactic that I use, because I understand that they're spending thousands of dollars in order to have all of these people out here to do the work. So regardless of what your like income status is, thousands of dollars is thousands of dollars, and whether you're some very well-off banker or whether you're some like very small homeowner or anything like that, the work that we're putting into it is a premium service. And so having that mentality of them paying for a premium service makes me want to do a premium job.
That's really good. So we could tell you tons of stories. We've got lots of war stories. But I'd like to move into what you thought of for your future when you came, and this is only 6 months later, and what you're thinking now, what direction you'd like to go.
Well, when I first got here, my envisionment of the future was still very ethereal, as far as I know that I want to eventually own my own property and live off of my property in order to pay for my property. And I still have those like late end ideals, but through the encouragement and the opportunity that I have at Augusta, I'm looking more and more into the franchising program here to encourage not only their end goals but also my end goals.
So other landscapers, there's a lot of guys that start out and they think, oh, I'd like to do something like that, but I didn't get the chance to go to college and learn business. And I feel like I'm just a field worker, which I've got down pretty good. I could probably do bids like my boss, but I don't think I could run a business. So us here, we're more about like each other's personal goals and personal growth while we're here. So we talk like before and after jobs and whatever. And I had asked Ben one day, do you think you could do this? And he said, well, no, like this stuff you guys are doing in the office, I could not do this. And I said, but franchisees have us, and all this stuff we're doing for Augusta, we do for the franchisees. So you already know the work and all the business part, and if you were a franchisee when you came for training, you would learn all that you need to know, and then you would know all the parts that we're going to support for you, so you can just go out, learn to do bids, learn to write your bids, then we take care of all the rest for you, and you can have a business. And last week I was helping some franchisees with some stuff, and I thought, if I wasn't working here, I would be a franchisee, and it wouldn't mean that I needed to know a lot about lawn care. We have some franchisees that started, they ran restaurants and other businesses. I'm telling you, I'd never used a lawnmower. But they knew if the systems were here and they could be trained, that they could do it. Because they could find, we talk about hiring other people that don't have your skills, but together you can build, great business. And so this gentleman could hire workers that had those skills, and then he could run the business part. So I asked Ben, well, would you want to be a general manager? And that is where Augusta still owns the franchise, but you can go and manage an entire location, and then you get a portion of all the profits. Or could you own one? And then I asked you about a future goal, and what you told me was so good that you have to share it, about the place you wanted to build for other people.
Oh yeah, well, I have a ethereal concept of owning a piece of property relatively close to a college that supports agricultural education, and essentially having a permaculture farm that undercuts the rental market for these college students, so that they have a place where they can work trade. And quick tangent a little bit is that for most of the places that I've seen that offer similar places, the work trade portion of that usually comes to below minimum wage, where you could definitely still have a correct business model and pay them what they deserve, which would be $16, $17, $18 an hour for the work that they're doing to supplement their income so that they can actually go to college.
So if you had a place for them to live and rent, and then you had an Augusta franchise, and while they were going to college, they could work for paid for performance dollars.
Absolutely.
And if they're low skill things that are like we've reduced our services down to mowing, cleanups, small landscaping jobs, it's something that you could train them quickly, and they could easily do for the 2 or 3 years they were in college.
Absolutely.
So it's an incredible idea. When he told me that, I was like, and think of all the mentoring you could do for these people.
Absolutely.
And have that same concept that I'm not just here to give you a job. I'm here to support your whole career and what you're doing and you as a person.
Yep.
So now you're more leaning in the direction that, like you were thinking, I would need at least a year in the office, you told me.
I mean, that's speaking on how I like to do everything one step at a time, rather than just jump into it hoping for the best. And I feel that getting background education and background experience in all different aspects of the different jobs that come here definitely would play into better success.
Yeah. So it'd probably be good when we have the conference in January for you to be there and talk to a lot of landscapers and hear their stories and all that kind of thing. And then, you were saying, if I worked here for like 3 years and could understand it all, then I could probably do it. So the idea is that the 3 years he's here, any question he asks, like we're telling him about business or whatever, so that he can go do his thing. And then, like if he's on the other side of the U.S., which a lot of guys are pretty adventurous in our industry, and you've been in other places, and you could learn everything about the demographic of the people and the land, and then you could go across the U.S. and you could start one, and you'd still be fully supported and connected to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to see the future for you.
Oh, thank you.
And with us, and the whole bit of stuff you're going to be the next few years that we're going to experience together. And I'd like to end on what you thought when you came here and we had the whole Audible thing, and like we're all like trying to do deep work on ourselves and bring our best selves to work. Did you think that was weird?
It was definitely a culture shock, because I've had several different jobs in all sorts of different industries, and not once did the owner or manager or anything like that give that much effort towards the employees that work there. And so having everyone be in a positive mindset, period, going into work was just like, whoa, like everyone else here is like ready to work and like just wanting to do a good job.
Where's the slackers?
What is this? So yeah, it was definitely a huge culture shock, but after a little bit I understood that there was a huge reason for that, that the culture was cultivated from the ownership down, that is the way that they wanted to do run their business in general. And so just that huge attention towards their employees makes this place, I think it was rated several times in a row to be the best place to work in the county that we live in.
Voted by the employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that speaks wonders
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah. When they voted us for that, they actually came, and Mike had nothing to do with it. They interviewed us employees separately. So nobody knew what anybody else said.
Wow.
Which is kind of cool. And they asked them what they felt about what they were paid, the culture, and all kinds of things. And they did that at multiple businesses in our county. So we did not know we were nominated. We did not know that we won. And so all of it was super cool because it was a surprise to Mike.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then their photographer called and asked if he could meet on the job sites. And so one of the guys, I texted him, I said, hey, the photographer's coming. Act like you're gonna, do something, decent. So they did some good posing and worked with them and had some fun. But, we're just trying to make a difference wherever we can. And so, do you listen to the Audible account now?
I do.
Yeah. And do you listen to some podcasts and things? What are your favorites in the Audible?
Yeah, I've been mainly skimming through all of that.
Yeah, there's so many. I think there's 173 or 4. Yeah. Yeah, and podcasts, what are your favorite kind of podcasts to hear?
I've been diving into the archives of Mike's podcasts a lot.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
So pretty much just going from the beginning like it's one giant book.
Yeah, so would you recommend that to somebody? Like, do you feel like it's something where somebody could learn basic business practices?
Absolutely.
And is it because he shares so much? And he like, this is what we did, this is how much it costs, this is what we tried and failed. And you think that'd be super helpful to you if you were starting a business?
Oh yeah. As far as when I was looking for other light business education, they never really go over this is the things that we failed on and this is the things that didn't work, which it's two sides of the same coin. You need to know what not to do as well as what to do and understand why you're doing it that way to begin with. And the transparency that Mike offers through those podcasts is very enlightening.
And you talked earlier about humility, and it takes a person with humility to set aside their ego to be like, okay, this person's done this since they were 11. They failed a bunch. I might want to listen.
Oh yeah.
Or they succeeded a bunch. I might want to listen. Because he's young, and we have had older people that have worked here, and right up front, Mike tells them, this might not be the place for you if you can't take stuff from a younger person. So younger does not mean inexperienced.
No.
For sure, yeah. Well, do you have anything you want to share to encourage landscapers or let them know in the day-to-day grind?
Just know that management's got your back, and that as long as everyone pulls together, that it will continue to be a good workplace in order to do good jobs for the clients. So, yeah.
So I hope this has been an encouragement to you, and we look forward to seeing you at the conference. Please click on the links below to hear any of Mike's podcasts, and what Ben was recommending, I recommend as well, is to go back maybe a year and start listening. I mean, you can go way back. Mike's been doing this for, 6 years, so if you go way back, you're going to get a ton of information. But if you just I can't spend that much time, start a year back, 2 years back, and listen to everyone coming forward, and you will get a wealth of knowledge and basically a business degree. Yeah, so thank you for your time today.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you doing that to bless other people. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.